Hello and welcome to Standard Voice Television Global News. Today, 7th April 2026, equivalent to Islamic calendar, 19th Shawwal 1447 after the Hijrah of the Noble Prophet. In the headlines, President Tinubu to commission 6 key infrastructure projects in Lagos. Resident doctors begin nationwide strike action over outstanding allowances. Troops of Operation Hadinkai intercept terrorist supplies and arrest 16 in Northeast. And on the international scene, Indian court sentences 9 policemen to death for killing father and son for allegedly flouting COVID-19 rules. And on sport updates, Confederation of African Football confirms 16 teams will compete at the 2026 Under-17 AFCON. Details of these and more will be coming to you in the news bulletin. I am Sumaya Mustafa. Stay tuned. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is expected to embark on a 2-day walking visit to Lagos on Wednesday and Thursday to unveil 6 key infrastructure projects executed by the state government. The special advisor to Governor Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu on media and publicity, Boyega Akosile, who announced this in a statement, said Tinubu would commission iconic, transformative and legacy projects delivered by the Sanwo-Olu administration. He added that the projects include the Ojata to Opebi Link Bridge, the Lagos State Geographic Information Service building in Alosa, the Lagos State Multi-Agency Complex, the Tolu Schools Complex in Ajegule and Maracana Stadium, and the Lagos Food Logistics Hub in Abijo. In his part, the Lagos State Commissioner for Transportation, Oluwaseun Osiemi, stated that the projects were designed to address critical infrastructure needs across the state. The Kaduna State government is putting effort to strengthen access to tertiary education with the construction of the Key Access Road to the Federal University of Applied Sciences in Kachia. The Kaduna State Roads Agency, KADRA, in an update released on its X handle, said the project had reached an advanced stage, underscoring the state's broader infrastructure push to support learning institutions and improve connectivity in emerging academic hubs. Underscoring the state's broader infrastructure push to support learning institutions and improve connectivity in emerging academic hubs. It added that the stone-based phase of the road had been completed. It was gathered that the road project is part of ongoing interventions by the state government to address infrastructure deficits around key institutions, particularly newly established universities that often grapple with poor access roads and limited connectivity. KADRA also described the initiative as a deliberate effort to complement federal investments in education while opening up surrounding communities for growth and development. The federal government has earmarked 135.22 billion naira in the 2026 budget to manage disputes and obligations that typically trail Nigeria's elections. The provision was contained in the House of Representatives Order Paper, which carried the report on the 2026 appropriation bill. It was also observed that the allocation was captured under the service-wide votes, a centrally managed pool of funds used by the federal government to finance obligations not tied to a specific ministry, department, or agency. Service-wide votes are regarded as the government's contingency or general purpose fund within the budget. It has also been described as a central provision, also known as electoral adjudication and post-election provision, used to cover expenses that cut across multiple agencies, including unforeseen obligations, national commitments, and liabilities that cannot be easily assigned to a single institution. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has been issued a 72-hour ultimatum to immediate reversal of its position by recognizing David Mark and Rauf Aregbesola as ADC National Chairman and National Secretary or face nationwide mass civic action. The National Youth Leader, Youth Wing of the African Democratic Congress ADC, Balarabe Rufai, gave the ultimatum while addressing a press conference in Abuja. He also accused INEC of undermining democratic processes and warned that failure to comply would trigger coordinated peaceful protest and civic mobilization across the country. It will be recalled on April 1, INEC announced the removal of prominent figures from the African Democratic Congress, including Mark and Aregbesola, from its records. The electoral umpire said the decision complied with a court order directing it to maintain the status quo pending the final judgment of the trial court. Moving on, the Nigeria Guild of Editors (NGE), the Nigeria Union of Journalists (NUJ), and the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project (SERAP) have demanded probe into a statement by the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory (FCT) Nyesom Wike, directed at Channels Television anchor Seun Akimbaloye. The call follows Wike's remark during a media chat in Abuja in which he allegedly threatened the journalist, saying, "If there was any way to break the screen, I would have shot him," after Akimbaloye raised worries that the 2027 general election was beginning to look like a one-party contest. The journalist was referencing internal crisis within the African Democratic Congress (ADC). NGE President Ezia Naba, NUJ General Secretary Onuoha Uke, and SERAP Deputy Director Kolawole Oluwadare in a joint statement they signed expressed worry over what they described as a shrinking civic space. The media and rights groups therefore condemned the commitment as a serious threat to press freedom, calling on the federal government to take quick action to ensure the safety of journalists and uphold democratic principles. Still in the news, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, commenced its planned industrial action today, April 7, 2026, threatening to interrupt services across federal and state-owned hospitals nationwide. Resident doctors have spent a cumulative 51 days on strike since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu assumed office between 2023 and 2025. A development that raises fresh worries over the government's ability to sustain agreements with health workers. This is coming as doctors once again announced plans to down tools from today over unpaid allowances and policy reversals. Secretary General of NARD, Shuaibu Ibrahim, in a statement noted that the association would consider the suspension of the strike should the government announce a decision to reverse its decision. The statement described the move as unfortunate and blamed the government of pushing doctors into another avoidable industrial action, adding that the association decided to embark on a total and comprehensive strike following deliberations over the policy shift. The news is coming to you on Standard Voice Television Global News. Still to come in the news. Troops of Operation Hadlinkai intercept terrorist supplies and arrest 16 in Northeast. On the international scene, Indian court sentences 9 policemen to death for killing father and son for allegedly flouting COVID-19 rules. And on sport updates, Confederation of African Football confirms 16 teams will compete at the 2026 Under-17 AFCON. Details of these and more news will be coming to you after this break. Welcome back from that short break, and now the news continues. Troops of Operation Hadlinkai have foiled a cross-border fuel smuggling attempt, arrested 16 terrorists during sustained offensive operations across the Northeast theater. The Nigerian Army, in its operational report, said troops of 3 Battalion acting on intelligence intercepted 19 jerrycans of diesel and 2 cars in Gumboru, Gala local government area of Bordeaux, near the Nigeria to Cameroon border. The report added that the troops raided suspected smuggling routes in the area, forcing the suspect to flee and abandon the products. It stated that the troops also recovered a motorcycle taken by terrorists during an attack in neighboring Yobe State. According to the report, the troops responding to terrorist movement in Chibok local government area engaged insurgents in a brief firefight, forcing them to retreat. Bandits are reportedly planning retaliatory attacks in parts of Zamfara state following the recent security operations, killing scores of terrorists, including the notorious Kingpin's son and many commanders. The planned reprisals are believed to be linked to sustained offensive conducted by Nigerian military forces in collaboration with the Department of State Services (DSS) and hybrid security units under Operation Fansanyama, which targeted bandit enclaves in Svtv local government area and surrounding forest corridors. It was gathered that among those killed was Kachella Sarki, identified as the son of Ado Alero, alongside other field commanders who were said to play key roles in coordinating armed operations in the region. Meanwhile, security authorities said the latest intelligence pointing to the likelihood of reprisal attacks, particularly against soft targets and isolated rural communities. The sources added that the movement involved bandits operating on over 200 motorcycles, assembling under Ungwar's Aimia forest axis, with indications that a well-known bandit leader, Bello Turji, had been linked to the planned mobilization. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has knocked federal government over the recent wave of attacks in parts of the country, urging the government to take decisive steps to address insecurity. Atiku, in a post on his official X handle, expressed worry that recent violent incidents appear to contradict assurances earlier given by Tinubu following the Angwa Rukuba attack. He noted it does appear that those words are hollow because barely 72 hours later, another attack in Benue State claimed over a dozen lives. On his part, the former Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi has also fought Tinubu over renewed attacks in part of Nigeria, recalling the president's recent assurance that the violence in Jos would not recur. Obi also noted that the resurgence of killings within days of Tinubu's pledge highlights a failure of leadership and responsibility. He lamented that the violence has spread to other parts of the country, citing incidents in Nasarawa, Zamfara, Borno, Benue, and Kaduna states. Moving on, Nigeria, the European Union, and the United Nations Industrial Development Organization have canvassed for urgent measures to end food waste and promote sustainable consumption and production. They also noted that when food is wasted, the water, energy, and labor that went into producing it are also wasted, while accelerating climate change and undermining global efforts to build a zero-waste circular future. The EU delegation to Nigeria and ECOWAS made this known in a statement. Deputy Ambassador, EU Delegation to Nigeria and ECOWAS, Zizismos Vergas, while speaking in Abuja during the commemoration of this year's International Zero Waste Day, explained that Nigeria wastes roughly 38 million tons of food every year, more than any other country on the African continent. He noted that globally, in 2022 alone, nearly 1 billion tons of food, almost 1/5 of all food available to consumers, was wasted. Still in the news, an Indian court has sentenced 9 policemen to death for killing of a father and son in 2020 who were detained for allegedly flouting COVID-19 lockdown rules. The Central Bureau of Investigation, CBI, in a statement, said the additional district judge in Madurai in the southern state of Tamil Nadu found the officers guilty in the custodial death of Jayaraj and his son, Benix. It added that the court upheld that the case is a clear instance of abuse of authority and falls in the rarest of the rare cases, adding that following the sentencing on Monday in a case that triggered outrage over police brutality. The 2 men were picked up by the officers from a police station and allegedly subjected to brutal torture. Media reports stated that the victims, who ran a mobile shop, were arrested for allegedly keeping their shop open beyond permitted hours during a lockdown as the COVID-19 pandemic raged across the country. And lastly, on sport news, the Confederation of African Football, CAF, has confirmed that 16 teams will compete at the 2026 Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations AFCON, with Nigeria missing from the tournament for the second consecutive edition. Nigeria's absence follows their elimination in the WAFU Zone B qualifiers, where the Golden Eaglets suffered a 2-0 semi-final defeat to Ghana in September 2025, ending their hopes of reaching the continental stage. The competition is planned to take place in Morocco from April 25 to May 15, 2026, and will also serve as Africa's qualification route for the 2026 FIFA Under-17 World Cup in Qatar. With the global tournament expanding to 48 teams, the top 10 finishes at the AFCON finals will secure qualification. Algeria clinched the final spot after defeating Egypt 1-0 at the Martyrs of Benina Stadium, completing the list of qualified teams. And finally on the news, here's the recap of the top stories again. President Tinubu to commission 6 key infrastructure projects in Lagos. Resident doctors begin nationwide strike action over outstanding allowances. Troops of Operation Hadinkai intercept terrorist supplies and arrest 16 in Northeast. And on the international scene, Indian court sentences 9 policemen to death for killing father and son for allegedly flouting COVID-19 rules. And on sport updates, Confederation of African Football confirms 16 teams will compete at the 2026 Under-17 AFCON. On behalf of the news editor Ilya Adamu Auta and the production crew, I am Sumaya Mustafa, thanking you and bye for now.